Hello, good people. Hello, and welcome back for part two of things that made me say, in regards to the Charlie Kirk incident. So I left off, let's pick up with the Groypers. Let's pick up with the Groypers because until this occurred, I didn't know this group existed. I knew of Nick Fuentes. I knew of some of the things that he has espoused, just like I knew of some of the things that Kirk had espoused. But let's dig into and let's talk about this group. So first of all, this group is further right than the far right. Okay, they believe that the far right is not far enough. They believe specifically that Kirk was not far right enough. And also, I believe that I've heard and I've read that they believe that Felon 47 isn't far right enough. They follow Nick Fuentes, who didn't like Kirk apparently, and he communicated that to his followers. I'm quite sure. Ultra, they've been described as ultra nationalist neo Nazi group that came about in 2010 through some meme culture. And then Nick Fuentes came along in 2019 and then began this Groyper Wars. They have targeted the left, but they also target just regular conservatives, just mainstream conservatives and Republicans. And it goes on to say that Kirk was one of their targets because he accepted debate with Jewish and homosexual people. So that's what I found in regards to this group. They've got little sayings that they use that's connected to like online gaming and some quotes that are connected to a film. Then they've got a lot of memes that they use. That little frog is one of them. So it's a different underground culture is the best way I would describe it. But for both individuals, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk, they both attracted this very young demographic. I'd probably say the teens through the early 20s. Of course, you know that Kirk was on college campuses debating, you know, college students. Nick Fuentes' group appears to go a little younger, and most of these are male. I'm not going to limit it to white males, but most appear to be male. Now, as far as these mass shootings, we know for sure, repeatedly we've seen the largest demographic of these mass shooters have been young white males. All right, so something else that piqued my interest that I saw the other day. So 2 days after this incident occurred, Kirk's wife released a video of her speaking from apparently Kirk's studio. And it was very interesting to me. Number one, it was 2 days after. So I know everyone grieves differently. I do understand that. But it is literally like this woman totally skipped over the denial phase and was in the anger phase, I guess. She vowed retribution. She vowed that his legacy, his business, his company will continue on. She was also very, very put together. The makeup was beat, the hair was done, she was dressed to the nines, and there were some sniffles, but I didn't see any tears. Again, everybody grieves differently. So, you know, I want to hold grace for her. I just thought it was odd that so quickly there is this video that's released with a 47, felon 47, gold and white hat properly placed on his desk, Kirk's desk, and her, talking about, do I have the quotes? Oh, you have no idea what you have just unleashed across this entire country. She goes from like crying about having a conversation with her 3-year-old daughter about, he's out making some more money for your blueberry budget. And, like, what do you say to a 3-year-old? And I feel her on that, but I just find it very odd. And then I learned, because I don't follow her, of course, but then I learned that she also released video and pictures of her uh, kissing Kirk's hand, and apparently it was an open casket. I, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to show grace, and I'm not trying to have any expectations on how a person grieves. Um, I would just imagine it, for me, it would just go a different way, is all I'm saying. Um, so we have that, we've seen that. Apparently she's released pictures and video. Um, yeah. And then, the governor with, the things that he had to say. Um, it's just interesting. It's just very interesting, the progression of these events. You had felon 47. Uh, he announced that Kirk had passed before the wife even put out any information. And then the very next day he's on Fox and Friends. Uh, and he goes from them asking him about Kirk to immediately pivoting to this ballroom that he's building. And he did that also on the tarmac, or wherever he, gets on his helicopter. He did the same thing as well. Very next day, reporters are asking him, hey, are you okay? How you doing? We know that Kirk was like a son to you, etc. And he was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then he just went to, hey, you see those trucks over there? They're working on the ballroom. I thought you cared so much for this person. And then later that night, he's at the Yankees game doing the fist pump shit to the YMCA. Okay. Are y'all getting what I'm throwing out there? Okay. All right. So some of the things I did want to point out, that I totally um, disagree and took issue with in regards to Kirk. So he called Simone Biles a selfish sociopath. LeBron James, he said LeBron James was not smart, that LeBron James cheats on his wife. He was talking to, in one of these debates, he was talking to a college student, and he told her basically, if both of you are drinking or drunk and at 5 a.m. something transpires, consent goes all out the window because you both have been drinking. So I guess grape is okay. And I'm saying grape because of social media. You know what I'm trying to say. He went on to, he said in another soundbite that I posted that, if he got on a plane and he saw the pilots were Black, then he would have some apprehension. He called Black women moronic. He said, these moronic Black women that work in customer service, do they even know what they're doing? He said the civil rights movement shouldn't have even happened. He put down Martin Luther King on several occasions. He said that Black women, specifically Joy Reid, Joy Reid, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Michelle Obama, they took advantage of affirmative action, and that they don't have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. those are just a few things. I also would like to just point out that Joy Reid and Ketanji Brown Jackson both went to Harvard, graduated from Harvard University. I could go on and on, but I'm going to choose not to. What I will say, is that I did find something that I agreed with Charlie Kirk on. He said that the DOJ should release all the Epstein files. Every file should be released to the public, just like the JFK files. He did this after a show, a speaking engagement with Megyn Kelly for the Turning Point, and they were on stage, and he, basically said, turn over all the information to the public, just like he did with the JFK files. And then I found another clip of after this event occurred. And again, he's talking to Megyn Kelly. I guess she called into his podcast show. And he was complaining about the fact that he was receiving these people accusing him of being anti-Semitic because of, I guess, somebody he allowed on the stage to debate, or allowed when, on the stage when they were having this event. And he was going on to say that I consider myself to be America first. And, he was expressing being upset with not being able to question Israel. There's another video. He also goes on to say that Epstein was either Mossad or Israeli intelligence. Said that he was a blackmailer for wealthy members of Congress, and that they are being blackmailed daily, and that he would use this information against powerful people, the most powerful people on the planet. So these are videos that are out there. And I believe the Turning Point event, if I remember correctly, this was just here recently back in August. So what you have happened is Kirk starts speaking out about releasing the Epstein files, and does it very publicly at this event. And then all of a sudden he starts receiving some backlash. And then he goes on to make this other, or post this other podcast about, his feelings about the connections with Epstein, etc. I don't know which one came first, but I do know the Turning Point event was like in August, or towards the end of August. So this also piques my interest, because I personally believe that a lot of things we have seen happen here recently was to try to move. They need to get MAGA back on message. MAGA was getting too far off message. They were not following along with the felons' messaging, and they were too focused on the Epstein information. And then you had the survivors come out, and then you had the birthday book be released, and all the things that the oversight committee was able to access and put online. And here recently, you probably missed this because of the Kirk information, there were Epstein emails were released. Bloomberg discovered, I think it was like 30-something thousand Epstein emails. That information is out there. So it definitely piques my interest that this incident occurs shortly after Kirk starts expressing his opinions about the Epstein information. And I'm going to leave that right there. I'm going to leave that right there, especially for, my folks that have been pushing for this information to be released for the past 10 years. I think these are some things that you should consider, you should take into consideration when you're evaluating this information that's coming out about this Kirk incident. I would also like to add that on the same day, there was another mass shooting on a high school campus by same demographic, I believe this kid was, or young man was 16 years old, but again, white male, white radicalized male. Um, Shot some, I think it was a total of 3 students, and himself, he unalived himself. So that happened on the same day, but it was overshadowed by all the Kirk information. So yeah, that's all I have to say at this point about the Kirk situation. And I'm going to go back to our regularly scheduled programming. And the last thing I will say to you is Epstein, 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 because I believe that is why we saw this happen and several other incidents occur. A lot of this incident, a lot of this pertaining to Kirk does not add up for me. A lot of the things seem very suspicious. And so I'm going back to the Epstein files. And again, I'm going to keep saying this until all is revealed. I believe there's a lot more connections and a lot more people involved that we would have ever imagined. And they did not want, especially somebody that was on the inside and one of them, pushing for this information and talking about it. That's my personal opinion, and I'm sticking to it.